Good evening, everyone, from Nuke's Eatery off of Highway 98 in Hattiesburg in the Turtle Creek Center. It's time for another Larry Knight Baseball Coaches Show as the Summerall Bobcats get ready now for the 4A South State playoffs after capping off the regular season last night, victorious at Sacred Heart, and get ready now to take on Raymond in a best-of-3 game series that will open Friday night at Larry Knight Field in Summerall. All the game times in this series are 7 o'clock. Game number 2 of that series will return to Raymond on Saturday. And hopefully there won't be a Game 3, but if there is, it'll be back at Summerall again on Monday night. I'm Kelly Sander along with the main man, Larry Knight. Coach has wrapped up the season. Mother Nature has really not been in good moods on the weekends lately. And it originally forced the cancellation of the Oak Grove game as part of the Lamar County tournament this weekend. Then there was take us through the thought process of even playing the Oak Grove game because the seeds have already been set in the district after you guys went down to Poplarville and won. So Purvis was the 1 seed, Summerall was 2, Poplarville was 3, and via the tie-breaking system, Greene County wound up being 4. So really, for all practical purposes, the Oak Grove game didn't mean anything. And there were those that thought, I'm really surprised that they scheduled the game because you got pitching situations toward the end of the week for the playoffs that count. So kind of take us through the thought process.
Well, yeah, Kelly, first of all, we did finish, going back to Poplarville. I'd like to comment on that a little bit.
Sure.
Very, very pleased with how we played Friday night. We talked a little bit last week about the Tuesday night game and that tried something different with Garrett starting, and he had a rough night. But I was very proud of our guys because really we played. That was for second and third place.
It was a make or break game.
And so I felt like we swung it well. Billy had a home run. Graham had a home run. But then Cross did what he's done all season. And a lot of energy, and and it was good, although we hated that we were put in that situation because it had been nice to go ahead and seal it up on Tuesday night, but it also was good to see us in that situation because when you get the playoff time, you're going to have to see how your guys will respond. So I was very pleased with how we did that Friday, and 8-0 win. A lot of things went well. So then after that, of course, we knew all the rain was coming in Saturday, and we basically. Coach McCardle and I had talked on Friday morning a good bit, texting back and forth. And then, Tess Smith, the superintendent, sent out an email saying, there's a good chance we're going to cancel all activities for Lamar County. And so once that came out, we both said, look, let's cancel it. And, originally, if things went kind of the way we were hoping, we actually were going to make up West Jones on Monday and then, of course, play Sacred Heart on Tuesday. But once we lost the Lamar County tournament game, it was either not play anything till Tuesday against Sacred Heart or maybe try to get another game in. And honestly, I went back and forth about it. I felt like, like you mentioned, I was a little bit concerned with pitching. I didn't want to get in the situation, when you play Oak Grove, you don't want to just throw anybody against them. And so I was a little bit concerned about that. But I felt also that, if we could go out there, we wanted to see a good arm or two because we're going to see good arms in the playoffs. And, what we've seen for the most part in the last few division series have been guys that have been, they've done a good job, but no flamethrowers. And we wanted to see some guys that threw harder, and we knew Oak Grove would have some arms like that. And so we wanted to see that. But we also wanted to see, I wanted to let Halen Sanford get out there and compete against a good team because, Halen's a guy we're gonna have to depend on him in the playoffs in some shape, form, or fashion. And so, I wanted, even though it was a game for him, like to go out, it wasn't like, hey, you're going to throw 7 innings. It was like, I want you to give us a good 4 or 5 innings, and we'll get you out of there. Well, that was my thought process. So, okay, let Halen work some, see a good arm on their side, give opportunities, whether it's Cody or Grant to come in, throw a little bit, and then, if Garrett could get back on the mound too. I felt like that was important. And really, all those things happened for us. Halen, I thought, threw really well. He competed. He had 2 pretty quick innings. 3rd inning, really should have been out of it. We don't make a play with 2 outs on a slow ground ball to short. We drop the ball at second. Next guy gets a base at the left field, and Cross doesn't come up with it, and they end up scoring 3 runs on that one play. And so there were things that happened, and then Halen had to battle adversity. Well, through that situation, I said, well, I'm not going to stick him out here and let his pitch count just go crazy because he may have to come back. He may be pitching one of the early games in relief, or he may be starting. So I went ahead and got him out of there after the third inning and brought in Cody Davis. Cody pitched a great fourth, and then in the fifth inning, Maples hits a 2-run homer, which Maples is a good hitter. We had some success with him through the game, and he hits a home run. But before that happened, we were up 2-0. They take the lead 3-2 on what I just described that happened in that inning when Halen was out there. But then we battle back and we score 3 runs and go up 5-3. So great seeing our guys respond to that. And we held that lead to the 5th, and then they tied up 5-5. We had some opportunities maybe to get another run, didn't happen. And then we get to the 6th. I think get a base hit off Cody. I bring Garrett in. And he's throwing pretty well. I think he had 1 walk, but they get bases. He gets a big strikeout, bases loaded, no outs to Plumlee. And then a 2-hole hitter hits a ball to first, and Mason doesn't make a play on it, and they score their 6th run. And then, but we get out at first, and then he strikes out Maple. So, Garrett ran it up there. I think he was 89. Had slider look really good. I told our guys after the game, disappointing we lost because I felt like we outplayed them. I felt like we outhit them. I felt like we pitched better, but we made a couple of crucial mistakes at the wrong time that cost us a game. But I had a good feeling about our team because, we hit well against good pitching. We pitched well against good hitters. It's one of those, you come away, you walk away and say, well, we should have won, but there's a lot of positives that happened that night.
Yeah, and I'm sure Zane will probably kill me for bringing this up, but I mean, if he makes that play, if he digs the ball out of his glove at second base, inning's over. Yeah. At that point, and I think Oak Grove scored 3 maybe
they
after that.
They scored 3 after that.
Yeah.
And
that's part of the game.
It is. It happens, and unfortunately it did, and Zane's such a trooper. He's a big part of our team, and it can happen to anybody.
Sure.
There was other guys that, Cross didn't come up with the ball in left field. Mason doesn't make the play, and so the bigness of that one kind of stands out. But I was really pleased with a lot of things that I saw, and I think that from our standpoint, I think we took a lot of positives from that game.
So the Sacred Heart game, we'll just touch upon it briefly because I think the key for me as an outsider kind of looking in is, okay, again, you've got to manage the staff, the pitching staff, because you got potentially a 3-game series coming up. But it seems to me, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you can comment, it seems to me that there's not been enough tread wear on any of your pitchers' tires that any of them couldn't go anytime this weekend.
No, I think you're exactly right. The only one that we've had to kind of watch out for at times has been Hunter Barrett because he's had a little hamstring strain. And, in fact, he dealt with it a little bit against Oak Grove.
And he was not in uniform last night.
Right. And so, those are the things we got to watch with him. Now, he's a guy that will compete, and he had it. He's had it through the season I'd say since half the season, and he's pitched with it. But there's certain times it gets a little bit more aggravated, so there's no reason to play him last night, and there was no reason to make him kind of force the issue against Oak Grove. And so we do know it's nothing from a major standpoint. He's been checked out, went to the doctor today. It's no, like a fracture or anything like that. He's just dealing with a muscle strain. And so it's just in a kind of an awkward spot. But, he's the only guy that we have to watch out for as far as, as he start feeling a little bit of tightness there, and he might have to come out. But getting back to your thing, the great thing about it is, Halen got out of there on 3 innings and not a lot of pitches. Cross has been getting a week's rest and getting a lot of rest. Cody and Grant are the type guys that can bounce back and throw. Garrett, he threw, like I said, getting him back on the saddle and having some success was important because you don't want the last game with Poplarville to be the last game that you threw in going in the playoffs. So I think all these guys are primed and ready.
And before we get to the playoffs, because we want to give you the whole playoff picture, just one other question about the Sacred Heart game last night. Billy Garrett, was out there in the 7th inning, and you called time. It was apparent that Billy was throwing hard, but he was kind of all over the place. With whatever you're comfortable sharing, what did you tell Billy when you went out there?
Well, the thing about it with Billy, and I think sometimes our guys will do this, they may want to go out there and say, okay, I'm going to throw this ball hard. I'm really going to see how hard I can throw. And I don't think his focus was there. And I said, look, this is going to be bad if here we are with a 10-run lead. Next thing you know, you look up and they've scored 3 or 4 runs. And I said, I need you to focus. It's not about how hard you're throwing. Let's focus. Let's make good pitches. And, it was at that time, it was first and second, no outs. I think it was a base hit and then a walk. And then he eventually got settled in and made some great pitches. I think that's the biggest thing is sometimes, especially like in Billy, he hadn't thrown in a while.
Right.
And you want to get out there, you hadn't thrown. Maybe you feel really good, say, man, I can throw this ball by the guy. Next thing you know, you're throwing it all over the place. So it's kind of getting him zoned back in and concentrating on what he's supposed to be doing.
And there's a good lesson for you younger pitchers, too, is that it doesn't matter how hard you throw it. If it doesn't go over the plate, you're not serving anybody any purpose, right? So
That's right.
There's a difference between throwing and pitching,
Yeah.
And you'll learn that hopefully as time goes on. Okay, so the seeds were locked in as of Friday night after the win at Poplarville. So the way that the bracket is drawn up now, it was really no surprise. Had you finished 2, it was pretty determined early on that Raymond was going to be the number 3 seed from that region. But you've got a Raymond team that has a better overall record than the 2 seed in that region. This Raymond team should not be overlooked.
Yeah, no doubt. And actually, that seed was not decided until Friday night. And so they were in the same situation as us because, Raymond had beaten Florence 2 out of 3 and had lost to Richland 3 times. Well, you had Richland playing Florence on Friday in a doubleheader. And if Florence did not win one of those, it would have flipped them. Raymond would have been second and Florence third.
Would have been third, okay.
So, and it went 9 innings, I think. 11 innings. And so if they would not have won, we'd be playing Florence. And so you're talking about that's how close it was, kind of like with us in Poplarville. And so, but exactly right what you said, we're playing a 3 seed who beat the 2 seed 2 out of 3 times. And the 2 seed we knew was a good team. They got a lot of good arms. They got a good team. And Raymond, we've heard a lot of very good things about. They played Richland very close in those 3 losses. We know they swing the bats well. They're very athletic. They've also played some big schools. This week they played Brandon. I saw
who you guys have played.
Right. I saw on the schedule, they were supposed to play Northwest Rankin last night. I don't know if they played or not, but it was on their schedule. They played Madison Central earlier this year. So they've played the big dogs, as you want to say. And competed pretty well for the most part. So I don't think it'll be a situation. It's not going to be an easy first round. Sometimes you get a first round game, especially when you get a 1 versus 4. That might happen. Sometimes the 2 versus 3 it might happen. But I don't think that's going to be the case here. I think and we've shown ourselves that when we're not playing well. When we played teams that were a lot worse than Raymond's capabilities, that we could easily be beat. So and we talked about that today is that, number one, we got to take care of what we can take care of and play hard no matter what and keep our eyes on who we're playing.
The Larry Knight Baseball Coaches Show from Nuke's Eatery on Highway 98 in the Turtle Creek Shopping Center here. We're the home of the famous Nuke's salad. It's called the Nuke's Favorite. I know you're looking at me and say, what would he know about salads? But there was a time. Yeah, there was a time. But I've never met anything at Nuke's I didn't like, and hope that you'll get by and visit Nuke's, who's always been a big supporter of Summerall baseball. The question I've been getting now is, all right, how does Coach Knight set up the pitching scenarios? And here's what people are talking about. They say, okay, you open at Summerall on Friday night, and conventional wisdom would be that you throw, Cross Sibley, but then you think, okay, well maybe you throw Sibley on the road. Knowing that statistically he's been your most consistent and best pitcher. You send your number 1 out on the road to try to offset any home field advantage Raymond might have. I know you're probably not willing to spread your cards out, to show everybody your cards, but when you guys make a decision as a staff, what other things will go into that decision as far as the rotation goes?
Well, you certainly said one of them. One of the things that you don't factor in anymore is, like in the old days, you'd say, okay, well, my number 1 will throw because he can come back and throw game 3. You can't do that anymore. I mean, you can if you get him out of there, but you go Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Because of the pitch count.
Because of the pitch count.
Right.
But you also said a very important thing. You do want to, on the road, be able to have somebody that's going to compete and do well. And so, there's a lot of factors. And honestly, if somebody asked me right now, who we're throwing, I'm still deciding on it.
Right.
You know, and a lot of times that decision
doesn't surprise me.
That decision will be made, you know, the night before, and sometimes I'll tell our guys I'm going to sleep on, and I'll let you know the following morning. I've done that at times. So, you know, and the biggest thing for us, of course, you know, it is we do have home field advantage, and you know, we certainly want to go after and win game one. But you know, I tell our guys all the time, if win or lose game one, you know, even if you win game one, you really need to win game two, because you get to game three, anything happens, and you know, you don't want that to happen, you know, at any point in time, unless of course you lose game one, then you certainly want to get to game three. But there's a lot of factors like that. Other things that you look into is, you know, what type of hitters do they have, and you know, guys, can they run bases and things like that, because that also dictates which guys hold runners well, which guys can, you know, field bunts and all that so forth.
You know, and when you look now at the full season, you've had a full season with the new pitch count rule that the MHSAA has instituted. Now that some of it or most of it is in the rearview mirror, has it been positive in your view, negative, or just give me your overall thoughts of that new rule?
Well, you know, for me, it never really has been a factor. You know, if I've got a guy that's throwing on a Friday night, and he runs his pitch count up there to, you know, 80 pitches or 90 pitches, I'm not going to bring him back on a Monday. You know, if he throws 30 or 40 or 50, then I might let him throw relief. But now I think what it does, it enables these some of these coaches who have tried to just ride one guy. I think it's done extremely well. And I can look back in the playoffs where that's happened to us when we faced somebody that, if that rule would have been intact, I can think of two separate incidents where in South State and the round 4 South State, we would have had to see a different guy. And so I think that's that it's been good for the overall, you know, side of the game.
Do you think, and I know this is maybe a subject for Dr. Oz or something, but do you think the rule change for what it was intended to do, Coach, and that's cut down on wear and tear of arms, do you think it's really going to help at the high school level? Because a lot of these select team kids are out there pitching, and the damage has already been done by the time they get to high school.
I think, you know, we've talked about that before. I think, you know, you seeing injuries, unfortunate, with these 14-year-olds and guys that are young, and it's not, you know, in fact, we had a kid this year that's on our ninth grade team that fractured his elbow pitching. I think he pitched in 2 ninth grade or 3 ninth grade games, and it certainly wasn't that. But if you ask him, how much have you pitched over the past? Well, he pitched fall ball, he pitched in the summer, he pitched you know, it's just a lot of that has happened. And it's unfortunate because parents, you know, they want to do what's best, but a lot of times they don't realize what's best. And then there's coaches who certainly don't know what's best, and
it's the old
overpitch,
wanting to keep up with the Joneses. A lot of times, you know, simply put. All right, one of the things that intrigues me as we begin to wrap things up now, Billy Garrity may not see a whole lot to pitch. He's been seeing the ball especially well lately. He had the 3 home runs, I think, in the Poplarville series. So how does that affect now that as far as you pack people around him? Because I don't think he's going to see a lot to hit.
Well,
personally.
I agree. And I think, honestly, he's kind of been pitched that way most of the year, but the difference is now he's not chasing those pitches he was chasing. And when he's getting the pitches now, he's hitting a lot better than he was. But, you know, one of the things I mentioned this earlier, I feel right now as good about our offense probably as I felt all year. I felt like now we're I'm not saying we're all the way there, but we're as close as we have been as far as guys hitting well and being hot and doing. We've got 1 or 2 that still, you know, but for the most part as a team, you know, Dan is getting on base. Mm-hmm. He is really doing a great job. Graham Crawford's come back around. You mentioned about Billy. You know, Mason's been there all year for us. You know, Garrett's kind of been up and down a little bit, but he's very capable. And then, you know, Hunter Barrett, when he's been in there, you know, he's usually getting, you know, 1 or 2 quality at bats during the game. And then you look on down the line. I think Zane's had better. He's getting on base more so and having better at bats lately. Tanner Morgan's been great in the 9-hole. And then you add Seth Mitchell, who has been great off the bench, and who DH'd for us last weekend. Now, he's been sick, couldn't play Monday and Tuesday, but he's a guy that we're counting on heavily in the playoffs.
But then you plug in Javen Williams, and Javen Williams with a 2-run double last night.
Exactly right, and he had a big hit against Oak Grove.
Yeah.
So, That's the thing we're seeing. I think now that 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, going, man, we don't have anybody really hardly doing anything, and we're got to win 1-0, 2-1, 3-1, and now I think there's a little less pressure on us as far as the pitching and defense. Of course, we still want to do a great job of that, but I think our guys are feeling more comfortable, and that's what it's all about. If you can get hot at the right time, that's what we're looking at.
And the best news of all, Summerall fans, is there's only 4 seniors on this team. So guys like Javen Williams and Seth Mitchell, who have patiently been, riding the bench, they'll maybe work them with themselves into the lineup. But lots of talent in the cupboards at Summerall, so you've got a lot to look forward to, beyond this season. But back to this season, again, the best of 3 game series begins on Friday night with Raymond. Game time, there is no JV game now, so it'll be a 7 o'clock start on Friday night at Summerall, then Saturday at Raymond. Hopefully, the Bobcats can wrap it up in 2, but if not, a Game 3 would be necessary, and that would be Monday night at 7. And we've looked at the weather forecast. Hold your breath. Cross your fingers. Everything looks good for this weekend, which it hasn't been about the last 3 or 4 weekends. So hopefully all systems will be go. We hope to see you at Larry Knight Field. Want you there in person. That's the best way to watch a game, and that's the boys respond when they hear you and see you in the stands, cheering and clapping them on. But if not, if you can't make it, of course, we'll have it for you here on the web. Doesn't hurt my feelings at all, Coach, if people are at the game rather than watching us. So, Coach, good luck.
Thank you.
We'll be hopefully talking about a Bobcat Championship as we begin the playoff run now. You've been watching the Larry Knight Baseball Coaches Show live from Nuke's Eatery here on Highway 98 in the Turtle Creek, shopping center.